Okay, now that we got past the number one and most important thing that you can create for your company's basis, your story, your background, is the second key factor to the blueprint for success. Now, the second key factor is something that every one of you should have. And if you don't have one, you gotta ask yourself why, right? Because the most important element now is getting your message out. And the number one way to do that is our second key factor to the blueprint for success, which is your website. Now, this is going to be contentious a little bit because everyone's got an opinion on what a website should do. Everyone has a way of describing what a website should look like, and no one ever asks the basic question. So I'm going to pose this basic question to you. I want you to think very long and hard about what the answer should be because it is the most important part of the actual result. I'll explain. Okay, you have a website. Did anyone ever ask you when you were designing your website, or maybe you designed your own website, did you ever ask yourself what the purpose of the website was to do? What's the purpose of the website? Like, what do you want it to accomplish? One of the hardest things to try to teach business owners or to share with business owners is the fact that they need a compelling reason to do certain things because then your audience, your target audience, your customers will then have the same reasoning. Let's say for sake of argument, you have a website and you put up this beautiful page, it's got pictures and everything else, but there's no message. Well, then it's just a flyer of pictures. Because really, in a nutshell, a website is literally the old version of putting a flyer on the windshield of your car. You have 1/10 of a second, or you'll know very fast if it's something that captures your attention. Now, on the top portion of that website is something called the fold. It is the first piece or the area that everyone sees. And in that area, you have got to connect with an audience in basically a fraction of a few moments. And the reason is because you only have a certain amount of time to get their attention. So you see one of my specific videos about talking about getting someone's attention. You have not much time to get their attention. And think of it this way, if you're in plumbing, if you're an electrician, if you are in landscaping, if you're in roofing, if you're in paving, if you're in framing, if you're in any area whatsoever, you have to look at this very specifically. How many people are doing the same thing you're doing in the same market? Okay, what are you doing differently? We'll talk about that in a second. However, that message, that first thing is, oh, we're a painting company, and the first picture is of a guy holding a brush. Okay, great, I get the visual. What's the message? There's a guy holding a brush. Another one of you could have, oh my gosh, here is a picture of a job that we did. Now again, without a message, it's just a picture of a room that has new paint. And again, you're asking me as the audience to try to connect that and put those pieces together. One of the key ingredients to your web page is to understand what do you want it to do. Are you looking to get new customers? Are you looking to generate more leads? Are you looking to send your message out? Are you looking just to show what you do for a living? Each one of these is important depending on what conversation you want to have in what they call the fold. Now, if you catch their attention in the fold, people will occasionally scroll up and they'll start to look at the other pieces. But again, remember, you don't have a lot of time to say, hey, look at us, we want to help you, and we can do the best job for you. Those are things that take a little bit of finesse. That's about the marketing approach, right? So in your blueprint for success, you have to understand that you have got to have a full set of pieces to make that work. Because if you don't know what you want your website to do, then you can just put anything up, and that's what you're going to find. You're not going to get a lot of responses. Now, if you're looking to generate leads, okay, what's the thing? Where is your lead generator in the top fold? One of the strategies we use is you use a compelling either pop-up or placement in that fold to get someone to leave your email or phone number or even their name. And the reason is because every time you capture somebody in that world, well, think about that whole logistics, right? Your website. I come to your website, I Googled, you just happened to come into that realm. I said, painting company in my city, boom. And all of a sudden, I get painting. Then I go, okay, now I got to pick. Well, I can look at the Google ratings. We'll talk about those in a second. But we're going to get into that conversation where now I've picked your website. Now I pop on your website and I land and I go, oh. Now, if I ever go, oh, you're not getting it, right? Because I want someone to go, oh. And now understand the difference between oh and oh. Now, it's not very specific and I'm not using great business terms. But I want you to understand, you've done it. You've done it yourself. You've gone to websites and you went, oh. Then you've got another website and went, oh. So every time you do that, oh, have a look at what they did because you can use the exact same technique that they use. Now, one of the key ingredients is if you're trying to capture leads, One of the most important things in there is to go, okay, do you have a pop-up that comes up in the fold and says, hey, if you put your name and email address in here, we will give you this. Oh, that seems reasonable. That's a trade. Now, what do you know about that name? What do you know about that person? Well, think about it. If someone came to your website, they're looking in the area of your basically products and services. If you now have a capture on that fold that says, hey, if you give us this, we'll give you that, well, that's a trade. And people will go, oh, I will trade my this for that. And in doing so, there's it's almost like a business transaction. It's a very powerful business transaction because what do you know? You now have the name and email of someone who's looking for your product and services. They're knocking on your door. Now, in exposure marketing, we call that magnetic marketing. Again, we'll talk about that. And there's other videos that we have. Just look up magnetic marketing, exposure marketing, you'll see it. The conversation is, how hard is it really to do? It's not. What it is to have a whole mission and message that you've designed based on all the parameters of the blueprint to go, oh, it makes sense to put a call to action that says, hey, give me your name, email address, sometimes even a phone number, but you know how you feel about that. Some people feel about it too. So make it easy, because the easier you make it, the more people do it. If you capture a lead, now your website is designed to capture leads, not just give a message. The difference can be thousands and tens of thousands of dollars for you as a business. Why? If you end up getting 1 lead a day from that one capture from your website, that's 7 more a week than you had last week. Now, let's say for sake of argument, you take that and you only close 2 or 3 out of 7. Okay, it's still 3 leads you generated for doing what? Creating a way to capture them in your fold that says, hey, we're interested in your business, you're interested in us, let's see if we can work together and become synergistic and do some business together. It's that simple. Now, the concept's simple. The execution is now, what does that offer? What do you do? Now we'll get into those, that's part of the blueprint. But I just want you to understand, if your job is you want to sell somebody into an appointment, you have to do a lot more work than just putting a few pictures up and a capture, because that's not going to translate. You then have to create a secondary type of website that we call either a landing page or a funnel that drives them directly to. So in essence, there are 3 basic types of websites. 1, designed to just put your message out. 2, to capture leads. And 3, to drive customers almost to the point where they book an appointment with you. Those are 3 completely different websites. And the people that you hire, the people you put together, or the team that you have, if they don't know the difference, it's costing you money, it's costing you time. So it's time to change your blueprint.